Yo, what's up everybody? It's your boy Jake, and today I'm gonna tell y'all something I don't tell everybody. I think collecting things is cool, but I think people are collecting the wrong things. Cause like most people are out here like buying expensive cars, like dedicating their entire lives to like just one dedicated car and overly obsessing with it. Or like buying jewelry or clothes that are like they're gonna wear like once and then put it in the closet. And it's like, that's dumb, you know? I just feel like it's dumb. Because, like, what are you going to do with all that stuff once it's over? Once the fabric of the clothes deteriorates, once the metal rusts away. If you don't care for it, that is. I know a lot of people that actually care for all that stuff. But what about the actual reusability factor? I think people are collecting the wrong things because they could be collecting stuff that's way cooler and they could, like, reuse over and over. And I'm like, bro, you could be doing so much more with your money, and you decided to pay like 1.7k for parts for a Lamborghini, bro. You want to know what's a good collector's investment? These bad boys right here. I'm gonna tell you what. These are Transformers. They all change. Oh, this one doesn't change. This guy right here doesn't change. These all change. They transform and they make change. They change and stuff. I mean, you can just grab these guys up at any time and basically use them as a fidget spinner. Bro, let me tell you something. You see this guy right here? He's basically two Transformers in one. And if you get like the rest of them, it's like several Transformers in one. This is Soundwave from the Fall of Cybertron games, bro. This guy right here, this guy's got it going on. He's a cassette tape, he's a car, he's everything you could ever need. Not even to mention him and Laserbeak, which transforms, by the way. Ratchet from the Transformers movie, specifically Emergency Ratchet, I think this guy's called. He basically heals Bumblebee in the first movie. I say basically because he didn't fully heal him. That's Evasion Mode Optimus Prime from the Transformers 4 movie. This is from Energon. This is a combiner. I forgot the name. This is from another. I think it's also from Energon. This guy's got it going on too. This is from the 5th movie, but it was from a soda cup that I got at the theater. I mean, look at this guy. Look at the detail. There ain't much detail, but you can tell it's Optimus Prime because of the smokestacks and everything. And you got this guy. He's a car. He transforms into a car. His engine becomes a laser gun thing. I don't know. There's this guy from the IDW comics, and his head also becomes a robot. That's Bumblebee over there. I painted over him a little bit because I wanted him to look cooler. That's Sideswipe. I didn't have Jazz. And the big kahuna of the collection, Optimus Prime. Bro, you can just grab these guys up and just handle them, bro. You can't do this with a car. You can't change them into a robot. You think you can just buy as many McLarens as you want. Do that, what's his face? Joey or whatever. You buying a bunch of McLarens? I genuinely don't know. You buying a bunch of McLarens? Bro, look at this guy. Look at him. I just think that people collecting like cars and stuff, yeah, you can drive the car around. You can park the car, make it look neat. But can you toss it around like one of these guys? I don't think so, man. You're missing out. Like, look at this. Look at these guys. You can just change them, move them around. It's essentially a fidget toy. Come on, bro. Where are you coming from, bro? I can't do this anymore. That is the lamest voice I've ever done.
Transformers, a franchise that has been part of our cultural landscape since the 80s and mine since the early 2000s. With iconic robots, epic battles, and an expansive universe, it has captivated audiences and garnered a dedicated fan base, such as myself. The allure of these larger-than-life robots and the excitement of discovering new worlds within the franchise is simply irresistible, let me tell you. The franchise has evolved to include comics, toys, video games, and movies, which I have almost all of them, and its legacy continues to grow. So why did I, a 20-something-year-old, likes Transformers? Considering I have this guy, that you might think, because at plain value, when it was sold, was like $80 to $100. is worth nothing now, is actually worth more than you think, is one of the reasons why. But let me tell you. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Ever since I was a young boy and would watch Cartoon Network, I've enjoyed the idea of the Transformers. Seeing cars, tanks, or jets become robots was the coolest thing to see then and now. I still collect them, as you can see. As you can see, I have a whole bin full of them. I sometimes pull them out and play with them a sort of pseudo fidget toy, if you will. However, I gotta say, out of the many things that I enjoy about the franchise, the story, characters, and scenarios have to be my favorites to touch upon. Not to pretend like the Bayverse films are the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I grew up with the first movie on repeat non-stop. I had this little compact DVD player. And you can fold it open, and then it would turn around, and then you can put it on its back, and then you see the display. The controls were in front. I would leave it playing on loop wherever we went. There was no stop to it. One of the scenes I most remember is when Bumblebee first transforms in the live-action movie in defense of Santa Michaela. Not to say every series has been the greatest of all, but there are gems among the rubble. And there are some that just stand out more than others. And I'll be talking about the ones I've seen to enjoy. You know, the ones I've enjoyed personally. I'm going to talk about you today. But first, a brief rundown. Having its start around the 1980s, as per the toys that made its documentary on Netflix, frankly, one of the only good things that Netflix has done ever since it became a convenience, not a necessity. The Transformers franchise is essentially a story of robots that can transform from trucks, cars, vans, helicopters, formula cars, tanks, hovercrafts, warthogs, dune buggies, flying saucers, jets, fighter jets, radio cassette decks, microscopes, aircraft carriers, space shuttles, trains, guns, dinosaurs, a Harrier jump jet, fire trucks, a submarine, motorcycles, laser cannons, stag beetles, Japanese rhinoceros beetles, grasshoppers, construction vehicles, several space shuttles, cities, a few Boeing 747s, a train, a space shuttle, and a robot all in one, a lion, a buffalo, a tiger, an Indian rhinoceros, an eagle, a two-headed dragon, robotic heads, robotic blasters, anthropomorphic sharks, floating robotic heads, and two planets with two dividing main factions fighting for each a cause the main leaders believe in, which is, as per the Autobots' beliefs, freedom of all sentient beings, and as per the Decepticons' beliefs, power and dominion over all things. At least that's what I can deduce, because there isn't like a be-all end-all quote that I can immediately find about Decepticons. One phrase I usually say is don't think too hard when watching any of the Transformers related, because many of the original things were not designed with a lot of realism in mind. As such, it would be a moot point to even compare the reality to it. The franchise has touched upon a few genres of storytelling, but the main one is science fiction, seeing as it fits that ideal, but it doesn't harper away from film noir, realism. It has a lot of emotional things. It's touched upon several things, though also like gritty sci-fi, like real sci-fi is one. It's had its hand in many storytelling aspects, such as cartoons and animated TV, comic books, video games, movies, and more. I'm sure of that. While the franchise may not be grounded in realism, it offers a fun, action-packed science fiction experience. Now, my first experience with Transformers, like most 90s and 2000s kids, started with the toys. As I lived in a part of the world where we didn't have cable just yet. So what we did have was local access to TV, and you know, we didn't really have Cartoon Network and all that at the beginning. So I got gifted over time some of the more iconic Transformers, such as a few Combiner bots, and a few of the big boys from Cybertron Trilogy, none including this little guy, which I showed in the beginning. But not up until 2009 did I start to actively collect Transformers when I was gifted for Three Kings Days. These three robots. Deluxe Class RC from Revenge of the Fallen, Deluxe Class Smokescreen from Revenge of the Fallen, and Deluxe Class Deep Desert Brawl from Revenge of the Fallen. I was about to say Revenge of the Fallen, but like as it's abbreviated. Additionally, a few months afterwards, after getting a few good grades, I was gifted, because I was such a good boy, a deluxe class Cannon Bumblebee from Revenge of the Fallen also. I do not particularly like the movie Revenge of the Fallen, but since it was the second movie I have on DVD from Transformers, literally I only have like 2 movies. I actually have 3. I had the original Transformers the movie, but I don't know what happened to that disc, and it saddens me every day that I don't know what happened to it. Additionally, I do not particularly like the movie, but it was a big influence on my life. Sideswipe fell. It was also on repeat non-stop. Yeah, I was gonna say that. My favorite scene that was not necessarily in the film is when Jeff, it was not necessarily part of the story, but it was in the film, is when Jetfire just farts and deploys a parachute. Honestly, that's one of the more memorable scenes. From then on, I carefully curated my collection of robots in disguise. I made sure not to centralize on robots I managed to centralize on robots that I would find fun to transform. Again and again, nothing overly complicated or too hard to pose or display, but also nothing too hard to just grab and play with. Granted, the collection is not all the way there. I do want a couple Transformers. I want a few of the big boys from Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. Frankly, in my opinion, having grown up with Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, I think these are the real movies, that the only ones that have like the best realistic designs, and at least in toys. And that's why I want like Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon toys, frankly. But above all, so far so good. My collection is pretty good so far so good. The ones I like are still available and kicking. Quick anecdote about this guy. I was at the mall one day. We were just walking around, I think it was near Christmas. And there was a pop-up shop for an anime store that's actually a couple of states over. But since the mall is one of the more popular ones in where I live, I kind of just walked in. And there was a display booth within the pop-up store, which was like multiple shops in one, which was essentially all classic 80s and 90s toys, but also had a couple modernized toys and posters. And I asked the guy, "Hey, would you happen to have an Optimus Prime, like similar to one on display?" Because outside there was a glass front, and he had an Optimus Prime for those from Transformers Prime. So I asked the guy, "Hey, do you have like anything that's not that guy?" And he's like, "Well, I have this guy." And he pulls out the box with this big boy in there, and I'm like, "Yes, exactly that one," because I've been looking for Revenge of the Fallen Leader Class Optimus Prime for the longest time. So on eBay, these guys go upwards, used, mind you, used. These guys go upwards from $75 to $250 used, and brand new, they go from $300 up. And this guy has a lazy sword. But I don't mind. I genuinely don't mind. I like this guy. Optimus Prime, besides all of the nitty-gritty stuff about him, he's one of the greats. One of those characters that you just simply it's not gonna go down unless I transform him. It's not gonna go down, and I'm not gonna transform him now. So I saw it, and I was like, yes, absolutely, I want it. It was at $75, brand new in box, and yes, I did open him up. Here he is. Eat your heart out, whomever's a collector and wants one in box. I have one of the very few that was in box and now it's used. Screw you. This is gonna garner value in some way, shape, or form, and I'm just gonna keep it in a glass box. And you cannot stop me. But I'm gonna pull it out every now and then and just transform and play around with it. Screw you. But frankly, it isn't just a toy. There's more of my love to Transformers than just the toys. Now, I will be clear on my stance on the Bayverse films, plus the Bumblebee movie, and what I've seen so far from Rise of the Beasts, as per this recording, because it could have already come out when you're watching this. They are not only a pinnacle of cinema, but they have their flaws. Okay, so, add a whole thing here, I'm going to try to just go for it. The movies that are live action are okay. You know, they're movies. You can't really judge them for what they are. They were an experiment at the time, essentially. They're just basically cobbling everything they can together to make something to produce, because they had the rights to Transformers, and so they went, why don't we just make a story? It could have been a better story. I'll be honest. One thing that makes me unbearably uncomfortable is the aspect ratios. It's just constantly going like wide shot to quarter shot, I think it's called, and then like medium shots, and like you see the bars just like disappear, appear, disappear, appear in the movie, and it sucks. And growing up, I'm a little more mature now. It gives me a headache knowing that it's there. Even it was in the first movie, and it's even in the last movie from Michael Bay. I have to report though that that issue is not in Bumblebee. At least that I can notice. It's not in the Bumblebee movie. But for what it was growing up, considering I was the main demographic at the time for these films, for this franchise, it was great. I have little complaint, because for this kind of stuff, you just have to turn off your brain and just kind of watch. You just cheer for the good guys, or cheer for the bad guys, or cry for the bad guys. It doesn't really matter. Pick a side, sit down, be happy that whatever happens, and move on with your life. However, I will be honest. What is one of the best stories that I've watched after all this time has to be Transformers Prime. From the very beginning to like the first 5-part series that I literally watched in vacation with my family when we went to Disney in Florida, all the way to the series finale where Optimus Prime sacrifices himself. I'm not gonna spoil it overtly. Just know that he dies, but he will come back. Don't worry. That series has to be one of the best story-driven and story-crafted series, because it not only encapsulates what the Transformers are, but it gives you a sort of perspective in the human side of how they behave, in the relatable part. Because a lot of people want to watch these things just because big robots. And I agree. I also want to watch it because big robots fighting. But this is one of those franchises where you have to turn everything on that is essentially your brain and move on. Just watch it, accept that it happened, and move on. But Prime has to be one of the more iconic ones, because the story is very linear. It gets you where it needs to go. It gives you twists. It gives you surprises. You don't. A lot of the things you sit down and you watch it, even with like announcements of the next, the trailers for the next episodes and everything. You don't get that sense of like, oh, they're gonna do this. Ooh. The only thing I didn't like was the Predacons, like the scientific side of the Predacons. Honestly, I think that was more like a cash grab than anything, but I'm willing to overlook it because the rest of the franchise, as a whole, the series was pretty good. You know, I didn't lose it, so it's pretty good. Also, I really liked the Cybertron trilogy. I like the Cyber Keys, like the Cyber Key robots a lot. They're pretty cool. So why do I love this franchise? That is the question of the hour, is it not? With the combined ideals of the Transformers showing emotions, telling great stories, presenting media that is not just cool but emotionally driven, with stories that make you question your own standing on things, alongside toys that, at best, have stood not only the test of time but the test of hands that have loved them for what they are and what they could be, Transformers has sparked a creative renaissance within me. From my youngest time, I've created characters, stories, and things that don't just centralize around basic concepts of humanistic ideals, but go beyond that kind of genre. They break that mold and go further beyond to just simply, oh, good guys and bad guys. Transformers made me realize that there is more to things than just good guys versus bad guys, or like, we have to defeat this and we have to do this thing. It's a main concept of stories and storytelling, but you gotta look a little beyond it. It can't just be like robots fighting, although that is the main selling point, so don't change that in Transformers. But what is Transformers Prime, the Cybertron trilogy, what I've read of the IDW comics, and the movies, especially Bumblebee, with its reintegration into the franchise and rebooting of the franchise as a whole, it's done something for storytelling as a whole that not many franchises have just been able to do. Not like Ghostbusters, not like Doctor Who or anything like that. It's done something greater, which is inspire a generation to go beyond the norm of just writing stories where people are the main character and create stories where larger than life entities are the main focus. I mean, yeah, there's obvious stories like the one with the giant, the robot giant, where he goes like Superman, the Iron Giant. But I think Transformers took it in a whole different path, and ever since it was picked up in that Japanese convention system back in the day in the 80s, I think we can safely say that Transformers is just not only a unique franchise, but a franchise that is done more for, like I said, storytelling and even creativity of young kids and aspiring creators. So if you want a franchise to learn how to do things, how to get a little creative in character design, alternative modes to characters, variation and everything, I think Transformers should be at least one focal point of it all. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Give it a like if you liked it, comment down below what I should do next, and subscribe for more content. Also, I know this one's a little more loosey-goosey. This is a little more just off the wall, basically just reading my script and that's it. But yeah. I really love Transformers, and I've been wanting to make a video about Transformers for a long time now. Ever since I realized what I actually wanted to do with this YouTube channel was talk about everything I love and I like and stuff. See, this blade does properly work, but not this one. This one just kind of stays there. I gotta like trigger it to, and it doesn't. This still doesn't. You have to basically lift this up, force it around until it does click, and then push this down and hope it doesn't deploy. But you know, we're gonna play it anyway because Optimus is not Optimus Prime without either his axe or his blades. What's the button here? And away we go. So yeah, truly thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to make these videos like this that are not super long form, but long enough that I can just flaunt around this stuff that I own that I like to collect. And I'll be seeing you all in the next video, which may or may not actually have to do with larger than life things. Probably even an Eldritch abomination that has to do with size. You'll see. Bye now.